Okay, wow, you really set me down a rabbit hole with these articles about Karl-Anthony Towns going to the Knicks.
It's a big one, right?
Talk about a blockbuster trade.
Hmm.
Towns is coming off a conference finals appearance. The Timberwolves seem like they're on the rise. Why on earth trade him now?
Yeah, it's a real head scratcher at first glance, right? But this is where the NBA's business side, I think, really rears its head.
Hmm.
To understand this trade, you have to understand the pressure cooker that the new CBA is putting on teams.
Yeah, both these articles mention the new CBA, but I'm not sure I totally get why it would make a team trade away a star player like Towns.
Right, so think of it this way. The new CBA is like a financial straitjacket for teams that spend big,
Okay.
go over the salary cap too far, and you're hit with these massive luxury tax penalties.
Right.
Suddenly, you're hamstrung, unable to sign free agents or make other moves to improve your team.
So are the Timberwolves really in that much financial trouble?
They're not in trouble yet, but this trade was all about dodging a bullet in the future.
Okay.
Remember the Brandon Ingram situation in New Orleans this past offseason?
Vaguely. Remind me what happened.
Basically, the Pelicans were desperate to get Ingram's contract off their books, even though he's a great player, an all-star.
Right.
Why? Because that new Supermax extension he's eligible for is terrifying teams under this new CBA.
Okay, so teams are getting ingrammed, as that one article put it.
Exactly. The CBS article used that term, and it's a good one because it perfectly describes the fear teams have right now.
Okay.
Imagine being ingrammed as being stuck in basketball quicksand. One bad contract, and suddenly you're sinking financially, with fewer and fewer options to build a winner.
Right.
And Minnesota, with Edwards' max extension looming, Gobert's massive deal already on the books, they were staring down the barrel of a monster luxury tax bill.
Yeah.
The CBS article estimated it could have been as high as $66 million in the 2025-26 season.
Ouch. So trading Towns was less about him not being good and more about the Timberwolves trying to avoid a financial black hole.
You got it. This was a preemptive strike.
Wow.
The CBS article quoted an anonymous league executive saying that the Timberwolves couldn't afford to get Ingrammed, and he's spot on. They had to make a move while Towns still had trade value.
I'm starting to see their logic, even if it stings a little. But if it was purely a financial play, why trade him now? Why not see how this season plays out?
That's the gamble, right? If Towns had stayed and either regressed or, even worse, continued his history of inconsistent playoff performances, his trade value would plummet.
Right. Okay.
So by making the move now,
So they're betting on the fact that even with his inconsistencies, Towns is more valuable now than he might be a year from now.
precisely,
Okay.
they're taking a calculated risk. It's about maximizing their assets, even if it means parting ways with a star player. Remember, this is a business.
No kidding.
Yeah.
But it's not like they gave him away for nothing. What exactly did they get in return?
According to the articles, they received Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and a future first-round draft pick from the Knicks.
Okay, let's unpack that. Randall and Towns are both offensively gifted big men, but they seem like very different players, stylistically. How does Randall fit into what Minnesota's trying to do?
That's a great question, and honestly, I'm not sure even the Timberwolves have a clear answer yet. On paper, you have two big men in Gobert and Randall who aren't exactly known for their outside shooting. Remember those spacing memes from the
Oh,
playoffs?
how could I forget? Social media had a field day with those.
Right.
Those memes will be making a comeback if this pairing doesn't work out.
You said it. But to be fair to the Timberwolves, the SI article highlighted DiVincenzo as a potential key piece of this trade.
What's the scouting report on him? I'll admit, I'm not as familiar with him.
He's young, versatile, and a solid shooter.
Okay.
He shot over 40% from three last season with the Warriors, and he plays good defense. He could be a great fit next to Edwards in the backcourt.
And let's not forget about that future first-round pick. That's huge for a rebuilding team.
Hugely valuable. They could use it to draft a player who fits their timeline or dangle it as a trade asset down the line. It's all about optionality at this point.
So the Timberwolves are clearly prioritizing long-term financial health and flexibility over immediate contention.
They're taking a big swing, hoping that sacrificing a bit of their present will pay off big time down the road when Edwards enters his prime.
Which brings us to the other half of this blockbuster trade,
Yeah.
the New York Knicks. Why would they want to take on a massive contract like Towns's?
Well, the Knicks are in a completely different situation than the Timberwolves.
Okay.
You know, as the SI article pointed out,
Yeah.
they're in win-now mode.
Right.
They've got their core in Brunson
Okay.
and now Towns, and they clearly want to make a serious playoff run.
Right.
Remember, they didn't give Jalen Brunson a max contract last summer. That seemed deliberate, like they were planning to make a splash later on.
You're right. That move always seemed a bit curious at the time.
Right.
So they were holding out for someone like Towns. That's some serious long-term planning. But is Towns really the missing piece that gets them over the hump in the East? The East is stacked.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
Offensively, I think he's a phenomenal fit.
Okay.
He's a walking mismatch.
Okay.
And his shooting ability opens up the floor for Brunson to work his magic.
Right.
Plus, think of those pick and rolls with Brunson.
Oh, yeah.
Defenses are going to have nightmares trying to contain them.
Oh, yeah. With Towns' range, that's a scary thought. But what about those defensive concerns the SI article brought up? Can Towns anchor a defense in a conference with Embiid, Giannis, and Bam Adebayo? That feels like a huge question mark.
It's definitely a gamble.
Yeah.
No question.
Right.
They're banking on Thibodeau's defensive system and the players around Towns to help mask some of his weaknesses on that end of the floor.
So are we going to see Defensive Player of the Year, Karl-Anthony Towns next season?
Right.
What's the over-under on Thibs making him do defensive drills for 3 hours a day?
You've got to wonder what's going through Thibodeau's mind right now.
Right.
He's known for his defense-first mentality, so
Yeah.
this will be a fascinating dynamic to watch unfold.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past Thibs to try and mold Towns into a defensive stopper.
Now that you mention it, both articles mentioned the Timberwolves' uncertain ownership situation.
Right.
How do you think that played into all of this?
It definitely adds another layer of intrigue to this whole saga. You know, if a new ownership group comes in looking to cut costs,
Right.
a trade like this, while drastic, would make a lot of sense.
It sounds like both teams are taking a leap of faith here.
Yeah.
Minnesota hoping to thread the needle financially, and the Knicks betting that Towns is their ticket to the promised land.
That about sums it up.
Yeah.
And they're both doing it under the shadow of this new CBA, which has clearly become a game changer in the NBA.
Okay, so just to zoom out for a second.
Okay.
We've got the Timberwolves prioritizing their long-term financial health and flexibility over immediate contention.
Right.
Then you have the Knicks going all in on the present, hoping this core can make some noise in the East.
Right.
What a wild trade. What stands out to you the most about all of this? I'm still stuck on how this trade really throws the old playbook out the window. You know, it used to be that a team would do whatever it took to land a star like Towns.
Right.
And once a player got that max contract, they were basically untouchable. Now it feels like even the biggest names aren't safe from the financial realities of the league.
It's a whole new ball game, that's for sure. The new CBA has become this silent force shaping every decision in the league, even forcing teams to make these tough preemptive moves. And for the players, it sends a pretty clear message. Talent alone isn't enough.
Right.
You need to provide value that justifies that big contract, or you could find yourself wearing a New Jersey All-Star appearances or not.
Wow. It makes you wonder what this means for other teams in similar situations.
Wow.
The articles mentioned Denver, Chicago, Atlanta. Are we going to see more big-name players on the move because of the new CBA?
Yeah.
It feels like this could just be the tip of the iceberg.
Right. Like I said earlier, it's a financial chess match now. This one trade has thrown the whole league into a state of flux. It's going to be fascinating to see which teams are willing to zig while everyone else zags.
And for fans of teams like the Timberwolves and the Knicks, talk about a roller coaster of emotions. This deep dive has really opened my eyes to how much the NBA has evolved. It's not just about assembling the best talent anymore. It's about navigating this complex web of financial considerations and long-term vision.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This trade is a perfect example of how the NBA is changing. It's not your older brother's league anymore.
That's for sure. So to leave our listener with something to really chew on after this blockbuster trade, which team is more likely to hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy in the next 5 years? The Timberwolves or the Knicks?
Oh, man. You're going to make me make a prediction that's tough. It's way too early to tell, but that's the beauty of it, right? This trade has injected a serious dose of intrigue into both conferences, and I, for one, cannot wait to see how it all plays out.
Well said. And there you have it, folks. Another wild week in the NBA. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.